Hi, my name is April Ballantyne, and I'm here to share my thoughts, feelings, and experiences in my survivorship of domestic violence. In 2008, I started my journey on survivorship. Had no idea that this was the journey that I would take in my life. But with this information, I hope to share with you and give you a true experience and the true knowledge of what it means to be a domestic violence survivor. My victimization began unknowingly. And in this, it started off as, a great friendship, similarities in different activities that we used to do that I liked, and it created a great communication level for the both of us. He loves the Lord. He knew the Bible. There's not many relationships that you get into where not only do you go to church together, but you study the Word together and you process it and you try to live it in your relationship. So it was really hard for me to see anything other than what he was giving me at that time. And in this situation, he started to control. And I thought his control was a part of love and wanting to spend time with me. But the control was saying, well, let me drive you to work. I'll pick you up today. It was easy for me to say, okay, we can go do that. Until I realized that I was losing myself in everyday activity without knowing that I was losing myself. How long are you going to be at your mom's house? Well, what time are you coming back? Who's all there? I really don't want to go over there, so you're going to be over there long? And I would be like, well, I'll be back in a little bit. Just give me a minute. Until the phone calls started continuing to come, or the texting continued to come, to where he was controlling my time by saying, well, if I just go home, he'll stop. So it was just easy for me to blindsidedly just go home. So as we continued to go to church, I noticed that he would look around and see who was watching me or see who was communicating with me. He didn't like the fact when men would come to me or approach the family and say, you all doing okay? Or, give you hugs or, a kiss on the cheek or whatever it is. And there was an instance where he actually stopped someone in church and told him what he didn't want him doing anymore. This continued to go on in different situations. If we went somewhere, if I had friends that would come and talk to me, they would have to speak to him first. He felt he was being disrespected if they came directly to me and didn't greet him prior to me. And it led to him telling me that I was disrespecting him. During this time, I just learned to, his triggers of not being in the eyesight of someone that hadn't seen me in a while because they may become so excited, that he's not going to react well. And I didn't want to put his behaviors on someone else because I didn't know what he was capable of at that time. His love for God, he would use, his love for family. He would use these different behaviors that would basically manipulate my mind, my thoughts, and my concerns into focusing on him. Everything that was happening that didn't seem right, I still saw the value that most others didn't see, because I saw a different side of him that showed love and concern along with passion for others' well-being. I said I could fix him, and I wanted to fix him. I wanted to give him part of my life that I enjoyed the most. He may not have a lot of money. He may not be the smartest man, around, but he's got a good heart, and he loves God, and he loves his kids. And I can work with that. Instead of actually going out quite often as we used to, I started to try to tame the beast. Let's go to the movies, or let's go to the movie theater, get some popcorn, come back home, watch a movie, play video games. Let's just do something at home. Shortly after that, a couple months later, I started a new job. I started in as a phone rep, and then I immediately moved to a supervisor position. And then shortly after that, I moved to senior manager of sales and operations. When I first started the day I first started on in my senior manager position, I knew that I was going to be with my boss for a long time. So when I'm in my boss's office, my phone continues to go off. When I looked at the phone, I just looked at my boss and I said, look, let me go answer this call and I'll be right back. So I stepped out, called, and he's like, you've got to come home. Somebody's been in the house. He said, somebody's been in the house. I don't know if they took anything. I don't know what they looked at. I don't even know what they're looking for. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my first day in this position. I can't leave, but okay, I'll be right there. So I went home, and immediately he opened the door and he's like, I've got this audio recorder. So he was like, you got to listen to this. So we started to listen to this recording. Well, there was a bunch of dead air. So basically it was him setting up the recorder and leaving the house. So I was like, okay, so if he's recording audio, what else is he doing? And I walked over to the bed, and on the nightstand, I saw a notepad. And with this notepad, it had different streets. It had Sarasota Court, it had Stonehaven, it had New Circle, it had Newtown Pike. And I'm like, this is my route to work. So he had put some type of GPS tracker either in my car, or he had actually logged into my phone settings because he was more concerned about, where'd you go this morning on your way to work? You stopped somewhere. Are you seeing this person? Are you sleeping with this person? And he was using harsh language, and it was tough because I'm like, what's making you think that I'm doing anything? Because I'm spending all my time, with you. And I came home one day, and as soon as I opened the door, he grabbed my wrist. And next thing I knew, I was on the floor in front of the couch. And he didn't hit me or anything like that, but he continued to curse and use abusive language and just ranting and raving and just like he's a ticking time bomb, just mad. And he's walking through the house. Well, he's got a gun in his hand while he's walking through the house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never even been this close to a gun, to actually see someone in my household upset with a gun, not knowing if it's loaded or not. But all in, I never thought he would do anything to me because, again, I fell in love with this person and I felt that he loved me too. And that night, I packed a bag for work clothes the next day, and I went to my mom's house and I got in the bed with my mom, and she said, are you okay? What's wrong? And I said, nothing, I just need to sleep. I walked on eggshells around him for the remainder of our relationship. So I came home one day, and before I got out of the vehicle, I had to think about what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm going to back in. But I'm going to back in because if in the event I need to get out of the house, I need to be able to drive straight out of here. And I would always keep my keys in my hand. I needed to be able to unlock that door and get in there as soon as possible and take off. So when I came in, I noticed that he's pacing the house. You knew something wasn't right. I didn't know if he was mad about something. I didn't know if something had happened or even if I had done anything. I didn't know what was going on. But so when I saw the gun, I went out and I got in the car and I started it up. And immediately he came outside and he started beating the butt of the gun on the window. I was like, oh my gosh, what's getting ready to happen? And he said, if you don't roll this window down, I'm going to bust it. I'll shoot it down. And I actually looked over at my neighbor's house, and my neighbor was standing there in the window watching what was going on. So I was like, please God, somebody call 911, But Wendell at the time motioned to him, basically go back in the house, don't interfere. Don't call, don't interfere. And he didn't call 911. So the only thing I knew to do was, again, to try to fix it. And I tried to talk to him, to calm him down, letting him know that it was okay. This went on for probably 45 minutes to an hour of me sitting in the vehicle and not wanting to roll the window down. And finally, I rolled the window down, and he sat down on the stoop, and he just started crying. And he was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I won't do this, I'll get better. And that it's that same language you hear, this won't happen again. I've never done this before. I was just upset, but again, I'm still not fully recognizing what my true situation was. And, I said, look, if we're going to be together, you got to get rid of this gun, and it can't come back. We have to learn to communicate instead of being upset and you being reactive all the time. Because I told you, I don't react this way. I don't argue. I don't like to argue. And he said, okay. He said, I'll get rid of the gun. But throughout this time, there was different situations to where if he didn't have the gun, he had his mouth. And his mouth was just as violent as a gun could be. I don't know where the gun came from. I don't even know if it was issued to him or not. But I knew it was something that he shouldn't have possession of. So unfortunately, we were never able to find the gun. I would just continue to call his brother and say, hey, Wendell's doing this and Wendell is doing that. But I told Wendell that I said, the next time you call me a bitch, you call me a whore, I'm going to be done. And I promise you, I will be done. And he didn't believe me, but things got really good. I never did see the gun anymore. And at this point, I'm still living for him. I'm trying to, keep peace in the household. I'm trying to, make this the utmost relationship. And it didn't start back until I started, going out of town for work or having to do luncheons or dinners with, other coworkers from out of state, different locations. He didn't like that. And I'm like, I thought you were happy for me with this promotion. And he was like, well, yeah, I am, but, I can't have you, spending time with other men without me. And I'm like, well, it's work, I would go out of town, he would call, and when I didn't answer, he would text, or when I got back, he would say, you were gone for 5 whole days, and I may have talked to you for 60 minutes the whole time. And I would have to say, hey, I can't answer the phone when I'm at a dinner with my boss's boss. I can't step away and talk to you, but he didn't see that. He couldn't process it, nor did he like it. So the coping with his volatility throughout this whole process was very interesting because I actually didn't realize I had done that until after the fact. And actually what I did was, one, maintain my faith. My faith was the greatest part of me that I didn't realize how strong it was, because I felt regardless of anything that happened, I was going to be okay. And the last thing was I listened to a gospel CD. This lady won Sunday's Best, and her voice just triggered me. And I was able to relate to the songs, and I would even sing them to him. And as godly as he thought he was, he liked the music, but when I sang it to him, he knew exactly what I was doing. And so that was my own manipulation to his behaviors. Internally, I dealt with this by trying to say I could fix it, and just repeating myself that I could fix it. I believing in myself, reminding myself of my own strength. But I also felt during this time I was trying to appease his volatile behaviors. So at this time in my life, I didn't know what could help me. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't even know how to look for help. And the reason why is because I knew he had access to me in the form of a cell phone to see who I'm calling, to see what I'm looking at. And I didn't know if I talked to someone, if it would get back to him. So I was terrified to tell anyone. As far as resources that were available, I wasn't knowledgeable of those things because I didn't need them. At least I never knew I needed them. But, you know, most of all, I was just looking for peace of mind. And I figured, you know, whatever it took to get peace of mind, that's what I was willing to go through.